We finally got answers from Valorant devs about the lore in their newest cinematic called Why We Fight Back. A recent panel with Riot devs and co-director for Brunch Studio gave us a closer look behind the cinematic, specifically giving us more lore on Omega Earth and the Valorant Legion agents. To start, we got to see this concept art from the animator Q, showing us Omega Sage in her crystallized Radianite cryo chamber. We also got this concept art as they went through iterations of how crystallized Sage would be. You can see her plugged in through her back and leg. From these sketches, her clothing with the ports seemed to have the Kingdom Industries logo on it, which might be a testament to Kingdom being more involved in Omega's Valorant Legion and how they have the tech to keep Sage stabilized right now. Next, Valorant devs Joe and Tim discussed the motivations for Omega Breach, Yoru, Sova, and Viper and why they fight back. In the cinematic, we saw them all take a stand, overthrow Brimstone as Legion's lead, and instead support Viper. All the losses they faced as a team, in the war and in their world, have weighed heavily on them. Starting with Omega Breach, he fights back for the misfits like him. Breach was born as a congenital amputee, which means he was born without arms. Those who are born with limb differences or experience limb loss are often subjected to lots of judgment and belittling, with people stereotyping them as weak, less than, or victims. Breach endured those same societal judgments, but he wasn't going to let that slide. No, he was going to prove them wrong, which is why he took the path of a criminal before Valorant. However, since on Omega, the Valorant Legion is known by the public and celebrated as heroes, Breach became a sort of role model for those like him. He took his role seriously and wanted to help empower them, which is exactly what we see him doing in his home in Sweden. He's helping a kid get his prosthetic leg just right so he can go out and play games with his friends like normal. The devs said that he's a very different Breach compared to the one on Alpha. Each agent is a mirror of themselves, yes, but different events in their lives have led to different outcomes, and each mirror version has full autonomy to make different decisions, and they will. Next is Omega Yoru, who fights back for the people. Instead of sitting in Valorant HQ, waiting for the next mission, or just hanging out, Yoru leaves and walks around town and surveys different areas, looking for ways he can help. Omega Earth is suffering greatly from all the anomalies they experience as a result of First Light. Joe said, he's seeing real people, ordinary people struggling to survive. He's seeing the kid that has to walk miles out of his way around a quarantine zone just to get to school. He sees a family be priced out of their neighborhood because it's been rebranded as a sanctuary zone, or another home that's getting lost to another reality collapse. Traditional authority figures are talking at a round table about high and mighty altruism, but he sees how little that matters when your rent's just tripled, or the ground outside your door has started to glitch because of some Radianite anomaly. While I'm not exactly sure what these quarantine or sanctuary zones are, Omega is not only facing everyday hardships, but extraordinary and unprecedented ones as their world collapses and they can't keep up. Yoru isn't going to sit back and watch it happen. He's going to do what he can to help. That doesn't mean he's going to sit and listen to someone's woes or offer them a shoulder to cry on, but he will take action and do what's needed to be done. He's the people's hero who works in the shadows. And we saw this in the cinematic as Yoru saving as many kids as he can. I will note that the devs clarified those are not Yoru's clones going around, but that's him using a bunch of his teleports to get from place to place, even at the risk of hurting himself, as we see what looks like some kind of dimensional scarring on him. This is one of the coolest sides of Yoru that we've gotten to see. Omega Sova fights back for vengeance. Although Sova is typically known as the golden boy rule follower, he's also very human. He's got a mean streak and can hold a grudge, especially when it comes to his Alpha Sova counterpart. Both Sovas have met before and are in a continual match of trying to get even. While I originally thought this was the first time they'd met, it likely isn't. These two have gotten into it before, and now Alpha Sova is trying to get even with Omega Sova. You can see the pain in Omega Sova's face, not only from the physical hurt of losing his eye, but also the emotional pain of seeing all his comrades get wiped out too by Alpha Sova. These two are in a never-ending cycle of trying to get even, as we saw Omega Sova go for Alpha Sova's only good eye at the end of the cinematic. However, he is truly still a selfless person who seeks to ensure the well-being of others, and he fights for Omega Earth because of that. His decision to go against Omega Brim and side with Viper was not an easy choice, but one that he took a lot of time to think through. Seeing that Legion was constantly losing, he sided with Viper, but time will tell if that decision was the right one. One more thing about Sova is that the devs recognize that there have been inconsistencies in how the Sovas are portrayed across different cinematics, with his eye color and the scar over his prosthetic. So from here on out, the devs have said that after First Light, the Sovas had a differentiation in eye color. Alpha Sova's natural eye color is blue, while Omega's is brown. However, both of them have a blue prosthetic eye and they both have the X-shaped scar over it. So hopefully that should clear up any confusion and puts theories about those differences to rest. Lastly, Omega Viper fights back for retribution. She's seen the true cost of Omega losing this war. Omega Earth and its people are hurting. Although she has a hard exterior and doesn't show much outward affection, she deeply cares for her team and world. Chamber is a symbol of that care. She's not primarily fighting for Chamber, but rather for what he represents. In the scene where Chamber is one of many in a row of bodies that need Sage's help to be recovered, Viper gently reaches out towards Sage, and the devs explain that she's showing us just how high a toll Alpha Earth has exacted on Omega. There is a human cost that's gone unchecked and has resulted in Sage being pickled, for lack of a better word. This anger is then heightened as she looks at Brimstone. Viper and Brimstone share a very different relationship on Omega than they do on Alpha. On Alpha, the Valorant protocol has been winning pretty much every fight they've taken. Yes, they've had struggles and loss, but Alpha Brim has been leading them to victory after victory. Meanwhile, Omega Viper sees Omega Brim's leadership as just leading them to loss after loss. Viper then has to make the choice to take over Legion or not. It's an impossibly hard decision, and she wakes up in a panic from a nightmare reliving their most recently failed mission, where Chamber got shot. In that moment, she wants comfort. Comfort from someone who understands the cost and sacrifice it would take to make that choice. One that Chamber can understand, as he's had to make difficult decisions that nobody else can, like on Fracture. Meanwhile, on Alpha Earth, we've been told that the two are not together, but there is something pulling them toward one another. However, lots of walls are still up by both of them. In patch 1203, they'll be removing some of the old voice lines that they had together, and the devs wanted to make it abundantly clear that those voice lines happened once, and only once, a very long time ago. In-game voice lines are repeated over and over because that's how the game's mechanics work. But in the lore, agents are not constantly repeating themselves. Valdev Joe said, "Our agents are people of respect. Harassment has no place. They don't do it, and they don't tolerate it." I normally don't mention anything about relationships within Valorant, canon, or otherwise because of how often people get attacked about them. I don't find the discussion worth it when people can't be civil, but I thought this needed to be mentioned as many people had misconceptions about this. It also makes it clear with other voice lines, like KO isn't constantly saying this to Reyna every time they're on a mission together.
"I will work with you, Reyna. I don't have to like it."
You'll work with me? What a relief.
So what do you all think? Let me know in the comments, and if you want to see my full breakdown of the cinematics lore, you can check it out here. Thanks for watching, God bless. Bye!